These attacks on innocent people are cowardly. They are not courageous. They are cowardly. They know they are on the losing side of history, but they are determined to take as many lives with them as their movement is finally exposed for the nihilistic, empty effort that it is.
Welcome back to Hardball. That was Secretary of State Hillary Clinton over in Pakistan yesterday reacting to a bomb attack that happened just as she arrived in the country. And here she is today in a much tougher statement in speaking to a student forum with much tougher language, this time directed at Pakistan and its government. Let's listen to the Secretary of State here.
I don't know any country that can stand by and look at a force of terrorists intimidating people and taking over large parts of your territory, particularly when that force is often guided by, directed by, and funded by outside foreign influence. But that's up to Pakistan. I mean, if you want to see your territory shrink, that's your choice. But I don't think that's the right choice. In fact, I think that's a very self-destructive choice.
Well, from the start, the Obama administration has said that Afghanistan and Pakistan are inherently linked. If Secretary John Kerry's trip to Afghanistan was to play good cop, however, was Secretary Clinton's trip to Pakistan today especially to play bad cop? Apparently, Richard Haas is president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Richard, how will Pakistan respond to that tough talk? You might even call it scolding talk from the Secretary of State.
My hunch is they won't like it. My hunch is they will push back. On the other hand, the Pakistanis don't respond terribly well to kind talk or soft talk. Indeed, that's the challenge facing the United States, is that we haven't been able to come up with any approach with Pakistan, giving them aid, sanctioning them, tough talk, sweet talk that seems to work.
Whose side are they on? Us or the terrorists? It's hard to give you a singular about they, Chris. The answer is in Pakistan, you've got a very divided government and a very divided society. So the answer is some of them are sympathetic to the Taliban. They wouldn't see them as terrorists. Some are probably sympathetic to the terrorists. Others, though, are on the other side. Again, the problem is you've got a split society with very limited capabilities, very limited cohesion. If tomorrow the Golden Gate Bridge was blown up, the Sears Tower was blown up, the Empire State Tower was blown up, the Capitol Building in the United States was blown up at the loss of tens of thousands of people dead, would they cheer in the classrooms in Pakistan?
There would be some of that. It's one of the most virulently anti-American countries I've ever visited. Pakistan has a historical narrative where they see themselves as the innocent victims, initially of British perfidy with the empire, India to some extent, and most recently the United States. They've always got this narrative, again, of victimhood. So the resentment of the United States is profound. It's both broad and deep.
So many Pakistani people come to America and seem to love it here. What's the difference? What's going on?
Sure. In a country of 175 million people, sure, you're going to have a chunk who are going to love America. Often those who come here are those who are most entrepreneurial, who are most open to making a new start. But you've got, again, a country of 175 million people, incredibly limiting in some ways because of class. It's almost feudal in certain ways in terms of limited opportunity. You've got tribal splits, you've got ethnic splits, you've got geographic splits. A small percentage of the people have terrible education. You've still got significant illiteracy throughout the country. And it doesn't take a large percentage of a country of 175 million people, just a small percentage, to create havoc.
Let me ask you about Hillary Clinton. What do you make of the Secretary's diplomacy? I have never heard a Secretary of State go after people. I mean, let's take a look at what Andrea Mitchell reported earlier today. She was referring to the hunt for al-Qaeda leaders over in the mountains of Pakistan. And Secretary Clinton told the Pakistani newspaper editors today, quote, "I find it hard to believe that nobody in your government knows where they are and couldn't get them if they really wanted to." Well, that's pretty blunt. She's basically saying they're incoherent. They're in cahoots, to use an old cowboy expression.
Well, they've certainly
The government of Pakistan's in cahoots with the people who killed our people on 9/11. They know where bin Laden is, and they're hiding the guy.
That's probably something of an overstatement, but the fact that so many of these people operate openly in cities in Pakistan suggests that
At best, there's a kind of tolerance and unwillingness to confront them. At worst, in some situations, I expect they are in cahoots. But the Secretary's, in a sense, fastened on something that is bizarre from the American point of view. Here's a society, here's a government that's threatened by various radicals and extremists, yet that they seem unwilling to take them on. In some cases, even worse, as you suggest, they do seem to be in bed with them. We can't understand why it is they are acting that way, and I think what you're hearing here is a real frustration, indeed exasperation.
Imagine the frustration of Americans serving people fighting in Afghanistan. We're fighting in Afghanistan to protect a government that may well be corrupt. We're fighting a government in Afghanistan we really don't understand what it's up to in terms of drug dealing, in terms of its real ties to India or whatever they are. We're fighting to protect that government because we're afraid if that government goes down and Taliban takes over, that will endanger the government of Pakistan, which we now have come to believe doesn't like us either.
Well, that's one of the weak links in the arguments for doing more in Afghanistan. People keep saying we've got to do all that we want to do or all that General McChrystal wants to do in order to save Pakistan. We don't want Afghanistan to become a sanctuary against Pakistan. The problem is Pakistan is now a sanctuary against Pakistan. And that's one of the flaws in the arguments of those who would have us do more in Afghanistan. If the real prize is Pakistan, why can't we get the Pakistanis to do more? Again, that was the theme the Secretary of State was hitting loud and clear. The question is, by going public, will she make a bad situation worse or better?
Yeah.
I don't think it's obvious that this will work. It's also, though, not obvious that other things have worked.
Yeah, you wonder about the Rube Goldberg thinking behind this whole thing about this will lead to this, will lead to that, will lead to that, and that's why you're getting killed. Anyway, thank you, Richard Harris. Richard Haas. Richard Harris wasn't available. Richard Haas, thank you, buddy. President of the Council on Foreign Relations, not the old Irish movie actor. And now to Ann Kornblut of the Washington Post, whose upcoming book is called Notes from the Cracked Ceiling, Hillary Clinton, Sarah Palin, and What It Will Take for a Woman to Win. God, you're tough. And you should be. Was Hillary Clinton too tough in Pakistan? Is that going to be the perception that, her critics will say she's always wrong, her friends will say she's always right, but down the middle, was it pretty smart to do a little tough talk with those people over there today?
Well, especially on her first visit, I think a couple of things. First of all, I think it's very unlikely that the tone she struck today on this trip, which was well planned in advance, even though it was kept, the details were kept secret for security reasons, I think it's very unlikely that she went with anything other than the White House official message and tone. And if, in fact, there is a kind of a good cop, bad cop situation, as you described it going on with Senator Kerry's trip and her trip now, again, I think it's perfectly intentional. It's also who she is. I think she's trying to set a marker there where she's going to strike a tough note with them on her first trip. But we also see her doing a lot of the kind of quote-unquote softer diplomacy, having a town hall meeting with people.
But don't you like the spontaneity? I know when she was in Africa a few weeks back and that wise guy asked me, how's your husband think about this? Sure. And it was mistranslated or whatever, but she took it as, you're asking me how the man of the house thinks? I mean, I don't want to hear that around here.
Well, right. That was a...
But I love it. It's spontaneous.
I would say that was a personal... That situation was a personal question on something that I don't think that anyone considers the core diplomatic mission of the
in other words, this was policy.
This is central. This is policy. There's no question around. This is not an accident.
Okay, let's talk about... You've written a book about women and opportunity. Let's talk about women in the world. A big part of this fight's about the way they treat their women over there. How are they going to react to an American woman basically scolding them or being tough on them that way?
I guess I don't think I know the answer to that. I think
will they take special umbrage at that?
We've seen, look, that part of the world actually has a history of women in power. We've seen briefly and with unfortunate, but we've seen female secretaries of state before. Obviously, this is our third who's gone to that part of the world and who's been the face of the administration. So I'm not so sure that is really going to be the issue for her. I think the line she's going to have to walk is, as we talk about in Afghanistan, perhaps ceding some parts of that country to the Taliban in an effort to focus on terrorism. Is that going to mean a resurgence of bad things for women? This has been one of her main causes, the Secretary of State, and much before that. So are we going to see parts of that part of the world now not being friendly to women anymore?
You've written about Hillary Clinton, and we're all fascinated with her, maybe me too much sometimes. But what do you think of her statement the other day? She's thinking of retiring after this is over.
What did she say? She said you were obsessed with her. Wasn't that
well, that's fair enough. I accept I'm obsessed with her. her husband and everybody in politics. But let me ask you this. What did you make of that statement, retirement? It just blew my socks off. Retirement for somebody that gung-ho.
Well, and when she said that she wasn't going to run again, to finally give a rationale, I mean, I think when she said, oh, I'm not going to run for president.
Well, what do you make of it? Bottom line is, baby.
I think she's probably tired. I think she's, running around the
I don't think she's... retirement looked like a red herring to me, but who knows?
We'll find out. We'll find out.
I'm with her on this stuff. Anyway, thank you, Ann Kornbluh. Looking forward to your book.
Thank you.